right. Well, welcome everybody to our Twin Cities Startup on scaling from an MVP to a Series A. So you've validated product market fit with your MVP and you're ready for the next level. This panel will have you covered from the tech side, the VC side, the accelerator side, and the founder side on how and when to scale your tech stack, your products, your users, your team, and your financial backing. My name is Tim Bornholdt. I'm going to be moderating the panel today. I'm a partner at the Jed Mahonis Group. We build custom iOS and Android apps for businesses and startups. I'd like to go around real quick, just have everybody on the panel introduce themselves and who you're with and why you're here. Why don't we start with Kate?
Awesome. Thank you, Tim. Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining the session today. I'm Kate. I'm the program manager at Generator. So I work on two of our accelerator programs here in the Twin Cities, the On-Ramp Insurance Accelerator, as well as Generator Minnesota. And so I'm excited to share kind of the accelerator side of today's discussion.
All right. Eric.
Hi, everybody. Thanks so much for coming to this. My name's Eric Martell. I am a two-time entrepreneur at this point. I started a company back in Wisconsin in 2010 while I was a student and stayed with that company for 7 years. Actually was Kate's coworker at Generator for a couple years, so know the investor side of the table a little bit as well. And then most recently am a co-founder and second-time entrepreneur at a company called Pair Commerce.
And a basketball enthusiast, it looks like.
And Papa Shot. Terrible at basketball. All right at Papa Shot.
I love it. Dave.
So you guys hear me okay?
Yeah, sound great.
Make sure my mic's working. So I'm a 30-year veteran of the early stage startup investment fund. I worked with two different venture capital firms. I worked with two different investment banks, probably worked on 200 plus deals, over $2 billion in monies raised and invested. Been involved with some companies like Cellcuity and Bite Squad and HomeSpotter and Definity as a board member and investor. Appreciate you guys inviting me onto the panel. Currently, I'm a managing partner for Brightstone Venture Capital Fund. It's about $100 million venture capital fund. We do $1 to $5 million investments in largely Series A companies, but we're sort of have a blended strategy. So we look at seed as well.
Right on. Well, we're really lucky to have, like I said, all three of you on today. So we're going to discuss a few things as they relate to scaling from an MVP, but ultimately we want this to be a chance to hear from you and have you ask questions. So as you come up with any questions, post them in the chat box or do the hand thing. That would be really cool if someone was brave enough to jump on with us video wise, and we'll make sure to sprinkle those questions in throughout our talk. But I think today we're going to start off as every good wedding toast does with some definitions. So Dave, why don't we start with you? Why don't you talk to us about what is an MVP and what is a Series A?
Yeah, so as a group, when we were talking about the MVP, one of my comments was I have a lot of people that walk into my office with a lightly functional bunch of screen scrapes. I say that somewhat jokingly, but people can come in and they can say, I have an MVP. Yeah, there's kind of more of a defined term of what an MVP is. And I thought it would make some sense as we were talking as a group and to all of you to say this is sort of what we view as an MVP. And it really is, the idea is you're putting the minimum amount of investment in to get the maximum amount of market product fit information out. So the components of there is, does the product have enough functionality to get an early adopter to pay you money, right? That's a pretty important distinction. Is there enough functionality there that somebody, early adopter, but somebody's willing to pay you? And secondly, does the product have a clear path to getting added functionality that will appeal to the larger market and really keep the early adopters in line? And then thirdly, is there a pretty effective feedback loop between the things you're learning on the front end and your ability to develop the product on the back end? And I say that at a high level because your goal really is to prove product market fit, to show that the product can be made and economically and at a positive gross margin, and sort of get some feel for, is it easy to sell relative to your competitors? The final thing I'll say here is that, even if it's an MVP, if you're coming looking for Series A money, there better be a pretty clear tech path and a pretty clear quantification of how much money it's going to take to build out the right feature set to really get you up competing with your competitors. So there'll be some discussion from my perspective of, okay, you're MVP, but to get to be a fully functional product and competing with these other people that are in the marketplace, how long do you get that functionality? How much will that cost? I'll pause there for now.
Kate, Eric, anything you guys want to jump in and add to that? He took the words right out of your mouth. It's perfect. Thank you for that, Dave. Eric, the next question for you. As a founder, you hear typically what gets you to the first stage of your business won't necessarily help you to. What's your advice? How to shift your mindset for the next stage of growth for your company?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that there's just a perpetual delicate balance between the hustle that's required today to basically hit your business goals, and then the sort of global long-thinking mindset on how you could take your business to sustainable and repeatable growth for years to come. So to get to a Series A, and David touched on this, but at least my experience from my first company, which got all the way through a Series D, was that we had to have some kind of proof that there was a repeatable process with which we could grow our business consistently. That being said, as entrepreneurs, us founders know that most days it's kind of like hair on fire, just trying to survive more than anything. And there have been probably, more companies that have died because they over whiteboarded their plan and didn't execute on that strategy than the other way around, where there have been, companies that just hustled and, just weren't able to make it happen because there wasn't a coherent strategy. There's the way that a company becomes successful, at least in my opinion, is, a delicate blend of both, but really understanding by the time that you get to a Series A, here's basically how the next year's worth of growth looks, where we can pump $1 into the machine and get $2 of value out, is an incredibly important mindset to be taking when you're raising investment money and when you're focusing on what features to build your product with. So you really get that understanding from interacting with the people who use your product and understanding the features that they like and what they're willing to pay for them, and really testing out different ways to get people to engage with your product and measuring those results to understand how much it costs to get people to engage with your product. And once you have those two things down, then the framing just changes from route to route. But the basically like principles of like understanding the framework for growth can stay pretty consistent.
That's awesome. Kate, David, anything to add to that?
No, it's good.
And that, I think Eric hit the nail on the head.
Man, this is great. David, another question for you. You hear running out of money is one of the more common ways that startups fail, even if they have a great MVP. For every one business that a VC might invest, presumably, you say no hundreds or thousands of times to other businesses. So what are some of the common traits that you've seen through those rejections? And as a side to that too, what maybe are existing or new investors looking for when they're thinking of putting money into an MVP?
Yeah, that's obviously a big question, and we only have a half hour, but I'll give you one glib answer, and then one helpful answer, and then I think if you can show a Series A investor that they can make 10 times on their money in 5 years, they're going to be very interested. If you can't, that's probably a very easy no for them. And the longer answer, the reasons we get to know would be something like you're underfunding a business plan, or you're not growing fast enough. You're not getting big enough fast enough, which kind of gets you to the 10x return in 5 years. Or a CEO who really doesn't know his or her numbers. That's kind of my own, that's a personal bias of mine, but I really think that CEOs ought to know their models cold. Or extraordinarily high valuations, that hurts as well. What I thought I would add, though, is that one of the things that you can do that can help you get to understand if the venture guy is going to say no is ask him a couple questions like, is your fund actively making investments? How many investments have you made in the last year? I mean, are they active? Where are you in the life cycle of your particular fund? If you're in year 4 or 5 of a fund, they're going to be reticent to making any, many seed stage investments. So just asking them a couple questions at the end, and a good salesman never gives somebody a chance to say no, right? But this is a case where if it's going to be a no, you can kind of sniff it out up front, and you can even be as blunt as saying at the end of your pitch, is this something that fits in your portfolio? Is this of interest to you? Does it make sense?
Kate, on the accelerator side, Eric, you probably touch on this too, but are there things that you see as well? Like, Dave mentioned a couple of things where it's like just flat out, you'd be like, nope, not interested. Are there like common reasons on the accelerator side that you see companies just being rejected outright?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think there's a couple of different things that we look for. I think one thing would be it'd be the team's coachability and mentorship. So when you look at an accelerator program, granted there are a variety and they each offer things that are particularly beneficial to startups given what they're looking for. But a big thing that we look for is, mentorship and coachability of these companies. Are they looking for the different, resources they offer? Are they looking for feedback and advice on their company? And so we really look for that coachability and teachability component. And then another thing that I think is really important for companies is just also to be able to report success in, a monthly update, quarterly update format. So even if you aren't maybe growing in revenue, maybe show some of the other ways that you're growing with your metrics. I think investors and accelerators really want to see that growth month to month, year over year. And so if you can show, how you are working and continuing to grow your business, that is a huge plus, just kind of keeping investors and accelerators in the loop with updates. And then also it's the confidence, right? The confidence in the team itself. Are these the right people to solve the solution? Are these the right people to be able to sell and sell reliably and sell at scale?
Go ahead, Eric.
Just really quick. The other thing, sharing anecdotally from my first company, which provided online ordering and delivery for restaurants, getting people to order pizza through us. Every startup is super challenging, but the barrier to entry to get an incremental person to order pizza through us was not that high. And if you compare on the other end of the spectrum, like my new company, we're selling to really big companies. Everybody understands the sales processes are going to be like way, way slower. We got a lot of no's for our first company in the very early days, just because they were like, well, just go get more restaurants and more diners and then come back and, show us that you got more restaurants and more diners. And candidly, it's a super fair assessment from an investor to make is like, if you have the ability to grow aggressively on your own without outside capital in the early days, the investor looks at this as an opportunity where they don't lose a lot by waiting, and they get to de-risk their investment by waiting to see really meaningful progress. Now, if you're, Neuralink with Elon Musk or whatever, that's obviously not an option, because it's like, hey, maybe in 20 years, we're going to be able to infuse your brain with a piece of electronics. You can't show month over month growth that way. But for a lot of apps and consumer products, the best way to get an investment, and also the best way to get rejected from an investment, is progress or lack thereof. An incremental person to use your product doesn't represent an impossible task in front of you. So if I was an investor, I'd look at your track record on getting people to use your product as a future indication of whether my money is going to take it far enough to, really accomplish something.
Yeah, Eric makes a really good point. If I could jump in that, we could give you a list of things that are pros and cons about getting from an MVP or a seed stage deal to a Series A deal. But if you have a killer management team, it trumps all that. And you can throw all the rules out. A great management team will cause, a Series B investor to do a seed deal just because he wants to do that deal. So Eric's point about the team is right. But other than that, it's traction. Show that you're making some progress in your vision, because you go from a seed stage deal, which is selling a vision, saying, hey, give me some money, I'm going to go do this, to a Series A deal is more of a proof of, you've proven the concept. And you're saying, okay, give me some money so I can just pour gas on the fire and wrap it up. And I thought it was interesting when I was looking around that about a third of the deals that get to Series A money came out of accelerators. And 10% of them came from the top 3 accelerators. Another interesting statistic is only 10% of deals that get seed money ever make it to Series A.
That's a bright spot for us all to have then. Such high odds, but we can all do it. I know. We're kind of on this accelerator kick. So Kate, I want to ask you, and since you're a resident accelerator expert right now, let's say I have a company and a product I believe in, but I don't really know where to go from here. I know it can grow, but I think accelerators, why would somebody contact an accelerator, and how could an accelerator program, really help you get to that next level?
Yeah, that's a great question. So with accelerators, basically why startups will look for accelerators. First of all, there's a lot of different types of accelerators out there, right? So I think that one thing that a company needs to do is, if they're looking for an accelerator as a next step, to be able to get to point A to point B a little bit faster, if they maybe don't have the resources or the network to get there, I would look at all the different accelerator programs that there are, whether that be in the US or internationally, and just kind of see, what are your long-term goals? What are you hoping to accomplish through this program? And how can that accelerator get you to that next step, right? How can they be helpful to you based off of your needs? And so going through and doing your research on the different types of programs that are out there, whether you're looking for one with a specific vertical of focus, maybe look at what stage that they usually accept companies from, if they invest, what their investment terms are, maybe geographically, if that's something that you're interested in, looking where they're located, things of that nature. There's a lot of considerations. The main thing here, though, is to be very real with what your needs are and what you need from the accelerator program as you go to apply to these different opportunities, to see what's the best fit for you. And so I think it's an important consideration there. And so to speak a little bit to Generator and the On-Ramp Insurance Accelerator, those are two of our investment-oriented accelerator programs that are based here in the Twin Cities. And so with those programs, we offer a lot of mentorship and introductions to mentors, investors, a lot of different individuals within our network. And so it's a really great opportunity for companies that are looking to expand their network and are looking for feedback and advice on certain aspects of their business, which is, a key reason why companies will come and apply to our programs.
Awesome. Eric, anything to add? I know we've got connections with Generator as well. Anything on the accelerator front of how that might help a business at get to the next step?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, I would just throw in as an endorsement that after going through Generator with my first company, and then working for Generator, 10 years in, I still went through Generator again with my new company. So, I can't endorse enough the help that they're able to provide. The only other thing that I'd like to add is that accelerators, just like everything else, are getting more competitive. I mean, it's a pretty compelling stat that David cited about how few seed companies get a Series A. Even getting into an accelerator is becoming really, really difficult. And just as a reminder that even if you don't get into one accelerator, try out all of them. Even if you don't get into any accelerators, that doesn't mean that you're going to be precluded from having massive success. Networks are buildable on your own. The resources that companies like Generator and Techstars provide are incredible, but at the same time, with the right amount of hustle and determination, don't let a rejection from an accelerator stop your progress towards your goal personally.
I love it. We got a question.
I had one
Go ahead.
comment. My exposure to accelerators is really looking at them as feeders for things that are coming up. And I look at all of them. We look at Y Combinator, we look at Keiretsu. Tonight, I'm going to be listening to the St. Thomas guys at 5 o'clock. I think that's a Generator product, isn't it? Yeah. So we listen to them. They're a little bit early for our fund, but we like to see what's coming out and establish that relationship early. Establish a relationship with somebody for your Series A, round that you're planning in the future.
Great advice.
So just add in that, if you are rejected from an accelerator program the first time around, continue applying, continue sending the team updates to show your progress from program to program, because maybe those one or two no's leads to a yes down the line.
I love it. We got a question in the chat, which kind of question we had, so I'm going to add time and hear what you guys have to say on it. So the question that we were going to talk about was, how do you estimate how much money you're going to need to bring a company to profitability or IPO, whatever your end goal is. And Jay in the chat asked, how soon should a startup start calculating customer acquisition cost? Any thoughts on those 2 points? Maybe start, David, if you have any thoughts there.
Well, calculating it or tracking, you should track it right away, right? I mean, you're going to know what that is, and you'll have it'll vary. You'll have a plan for that to be dropping over time, but certainly track it right away. I mean, I don't from an MVP or an early stage company, the LTV CAC is not going to be super critical, but you ought to be able to speak to your path of making it more attractive.
Makes sense. Let me see. Ooh, Ari in the chat. So you had a question here. It's very difficult to get into an accelerator as an early stage. How does one get accepted without traction? Any thoughts on that, Kate?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we have had companies that have been accepted into our accelerator programs in the past, both our G-Beta, which is a pre-accelerator, and our generator on-ramp insurance accelerator programs that are investment focused in the past. And I think that, it kind of comes to two things. It would be the opportunity and the team. So, the team is really strong and they seem like they have this great expertise and they're the right people to tackle and build the solution, and we have confidence in them. And then also the opportunity, what they're building, what that looks like, and what it could be looking ahead to the future.
I want to jump in with two thoughts there, just because Kate touched on it really quick. But Generator, for instance, has 2 tiers of accelerators. They have G-Beta, which doesn't take equity and doesn't invest cash, but provides a lot of the same resources. And that's specifically tailored towards founders that have, outsized ambitions, a really compelling business plan, probably very little or no traction at that point. Beyond Generator, I mean, there are a ton of startup accelerator programs that are more tailored towards that generation of company, like StartX out in California is one that comes to mind for me. But I know, there are literally hundreds of them that are, in some ways you can make the argument like Beta and Beta Showcase, kind of fits into that mold too. So I would, if you're a little early for Generator proper or Techstars or Y Combinator, just keep an open mind. And the other thing, I just want to come back to like what I said a second ago, which is having, been one of the folks along with Kate who put the flag in the ground for Generator in the Twin Cities. There's no magic to it. It's just a lot of incredible hustle and hard work to get an accelerator up and running in a city and get connected to the mentors and get it connected to the investors. But you as a founder are also capable of networking your way to investors and mentors, et cetera, the same way as myself and Kate and a handful of other folks here in the Twin Cities did on behalf of setting up the Generator program. So accelerators, I don't think should ever be viewed as like an impasse or a roadblock to your success. If for whatever reason it's not working out through that avenue, do what the accelerators themselves did and just network your butt off until you have an incredible network yourself. With that being said, accelerators offer kind of a fast lane to get to that network. But again, there's nothing that, is magic that made an accelerator. Even Y Combinator early on was probably just a lot of like block and tackle networking on behalf of the companies that they were working with.
Jay posted in the chat, there's a link that the Deed team shared, this great resource on local accelerators from. Check the chat for that link. We got 5 minutes left, so I wanted to talk about the last question that we kind of had prepared. So with exciting features in the pipeline, startups sometimes focus on one area of their operation and scale it out of sync with the rest of their business. When you're talking about scaling from an MVP to a Series A, how do you determine what to prioritize to make sure that you're kind of focusing on the right things? Maybe Eric, if you want to take that one.
Yeah, sure. It's what your customers really love is what you should be focusing on. I mean, it seems really intuitive, but you have to remind yourself that on a daily basis, because very often, if there's one feature that people are resonating with and you have this idea of this complementary feature set versus the feature that already exists that may be kind of rough on the edges, but people really seem to like, the more often than not correct answer where you should be spending your time making your existing feature better so that people can use it more easily so that you can gain more traction. The next opportunity, the shiny object, every founder is a big picture thinker. That's why we start businesses. But very often it's, recognizing and talking to your customers and saying, what is it that you love about our product? What can we make better? And using them as your sort of roadmap And very often that just means making your existing product way better as opposed to adding widgets or buttons or things that nobody is probably very likely to use. And as a software guy myself, I mean, the easiest way to do it is track how many people click on what buttons on your app. Like, it doesn't take Mixpanel or any kind of fancy analytics to see, like, if people are clicking feature A 10 times more often than feature B, what the people love and what the people could not care less about as far as the other feature goes.
Dave, Kate, any thoughts as well to share on that topic?
Yeah, the only thing I'll add is just a little humor from your Neuralink comment, Eric, is that probably not a lot of customers out there saying, hey, I want a BioPoly box to put my brain in, right? There's not a lot of those. So every once in a while, you'll get an entrepreneur with a vision, and he'll have a great vision, or she'll have a great vision. And they'll go out and create something that they think somebody wants, but you don't have a lot of that customer feedback. I totally agree that the whole point of the MVP is to build what the customer wants and get the right feedback. But every once in a while, you'll find a visionary entrepreneur that says, I'm just going to go build this. And if I do, there'll be a market there. And they're right?
Yeah. It's like Henry.
That's the fun part of this business. That's the really fun part of this business.
Well, it was Henry Ford who said, like, if I gave the people what they wanted, they'd get a faster horse, right? I mean,
right.
It's that.
Kate, any thoughts to share on that?
I mean, I think Eric and David pretty much covered it really well. I think just kind of emphasizing the importance of getting customer feedback at that early level with what features they like, what features they don't, and just really understanding how the customer uses the product, whether that be maybe sitting down and watching them use it or whatever have you. It's just really important to be able to gather that feedback as you go to iterate and improve and add additional features.
I think one thing I want to end this on is I'd love to hear final thoughts. I think a lot of people here are listening. They're probably founders that are in this right track that want to get to the next level. If you could just share maybe one final piece of advice each that you would think would be the most helpful. Eric, let me start with you if you've got that.
Yeah. I guess I'll try to keep it short. There's no right or wrong way to build successful companies. If there was a codified way to be successful, then everybody would do it, which means, go ahead and swing for the fence, try to raise a Series A and beyond, try to get into a startup accelerator, or don't. There are so many wealthy people or people who have made an incredible impact on their communities, who have built businesses via bootstrapping methods, people who have trusted their thoughts versus people who have spent painstaking customers. All of this, there is no right or wrong answer. So I just want to encourage, more than anything, is showing up every day and really putting your all into it, that I think does make a business successful. So I hope we've been helpful, but also just keep doing you as a founder, because starting a business is one of the hardest things that you can possibly do.
Agreed.
So I'll add that as predominantly a Series A investor, we like to see traction. We've said that. We like to see sales. We've said that. But a lot of times, going from a seed MVP, you don't have some of those things. But there's other ways that you can build credibility or build viability. And one is with your team. I mean, if you're able to attract 4 or 5 or 6 killer people that have an ability to go elsewhere, and they choose to come to your company versus going to Facebook or somewhere else, that's a really nice validation that you've got something there. If you can get an advisor, if you can get an advisor group or some sort of a scientific board that is going to basically give credibility that you've got something that's there. Early beta customers, even if they're not full-on customers and maybe they haven't even paid you or they're going to, but somebody that said, yeah, I'll take your product, I'll take it in, I'll take a look at it, and I'll give you some feedback. I'll be your first beta. So there's things like that you can do that'll show that you're on the right track, show that it's not just you that's telling me the story, that there's a variety of other people that are going to support that as well. So there's things, point is, there's things you can do along the way to show your viability prior to getting that all important, first, third, and 10th sale.
Awesome. Kate, Kate, final thoughts.
Yeah, and then I'll just add in here, building off of Eric and David. So when looking at accelerator programs as you're scaling from an MVP to Series A, there are a lot of different types of accelerator programs out there for startups that are at different stages in the process. So whether you're maybe pre-product pre-revenue looking for an earlier stage accelerator that can give you some of those fundamental resources needed, to accelerator programs that are more so geared towards Series A. There's a lot of different resources out there, and it's really important just to kind of be very thoughtful about what areas you really need help with and what your long-term goals are, and to kind of write those down. And as you're researching accelerator programs out there for what might be best for you, to really take those into consideration for how that accelerator program can be helpful to you and provide the right resources that you need.
Awesome. Well, thank you everybody for joining us. Thank you to the panelists for being on board. I certainly learned a lot and took away a lot. So thank you so much. And I'm sure all of you are available, email, LinkedIn, wherever people can reach out and find you to get some more detailed questions answered. And yeah, and hope you guys enjoy the rest of Twin Cities Startup Week. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, everybody.
There's supposed to be like thunderous applause happening right now, but yeah, cool. So what can you do?
All right.
All right. Well,
Thanks for hosting. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Yep. All right. Bye-bye. Bye, Kate.
All right, take care.
Bye, David.
Bye, Kate.